what's the title of it? I forget. It's something like
Jet Ski Paradise.
you can tell they're government operatives. They've got like evil in their eyes, hardcore. I mean, their real spirit is.
You and I FaceTimed the other day from the hospital bed, and your face looked so puffy. You looked so swollen.
Yeah, dude.
Lobotomies are getting pretty, streamlined these days. You were in and out of the hospital in a day.
Yeah, I know.
Your whole brain removed.
Just the part the government controls, which is 95% of it.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good. That's why I'm smiling so much. I only got the 5% that's essential now.
Yeah. Studying nursing, essential worker, removing all of the non-essential brain matter. You're just a good citizen.
Yeah, pretty good. But yeah, no, I had 4 wisdom teeth out.
That's hectic.
Yeah, but what sucks is when I woke up, they didn't even let me keep the teeth.
What? Why?
I don't know. They probably want to do like voodoo or something with them.
Yeah. Maybe you're not up to that part of your degree yet.
Oh, yeah.
Where they start teaching you
Black
the witch
magic.
doctor stuff.
Yeah.
Your first tutorial in 3rd year, they're just like, all right, everybody, let's get some disgusting teeth.
Yeah. That unit's necromancy. They're
Yeah, Necromancy 101.
Yeah.
Speaking of necromancy, your mum... No. But your mum's with you?
Yeah.
In your tiny one-bedroom
studio apartment. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. You say studio apartment, it's like student accommodation.
No, it's not.
You've got a dorm.
Shut up. It's not a dorm.
It's a dorm.
No, it's like a studio. It's like a...
Your mum's running the hallways. She's like, woo!
Yeah, mum's in a frat. She keeps hazing me full of friends.
Yeah. How many wedgies have you had?
But no, it's been fun. I keep... I've been showing, Beetlejuice from the Howard Stern show.
I know the movie Beetlejuice, but I don't know.
It's different. The Howard Stern show used to have this guy, this little person who was like very, very heavily disabled, would come in,
Right.
and his name was Beetlejuice, and they would just bully him, like
Aww.
like Howard Stern would be like, "Yo, Beetlejuice, how much pussy are you getting lately?" And stuff like that.
What about pussy, though? You still get that?
Pussy ain't mean nothing to me.
Really? Whoa.
What's going on? Is Beetle becoming a priest?
It's the Paxil, I'm telling you, man. It's affecting his sex life.
Paxil's turning you fruity.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yep.
No, I sure don't fuck with my body, buddy.
Do you like cock?
Don't you like cock?
No,
That's
you like cock.
bro.
It sounds like you like cock, you homo.
Oh, then I eat pussy and leave.
He was just like, he was just like heavily disabled. But I was showing Mum clips of that, and I was like,
Yeah.
Mum, this is an artist that I like really like. I was showing her Beetlejuice, and she was like, "Is he?" And she was like, "No, there's something wrong with him." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Dude, he's just like a really good painter." And she was like,
Are you serious? Was she confused?
Yeah. She was so confused.
She wouldn't have been good company at the Penn and Teller live show I went to a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, you loved her, right?
Yeah, I cried a lot. It was awesome.
Cried.
It was the best show of my life to date. It was sick. I love Penn and Teller. Shut up. I got a shirt, but it was pretty good because it was at the Opera House and, it was pretty packed out, but I kept trying to pick out who were the magicians in the crowd.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot of guys wearing suits and it's like
Yeah,
a Tuesday.
It's a giveaway.
Yeah, that's the big giveaway. But then you'd see a guy in a polo shirt with just a slightly longer mustache. I'm like, that's a magician.
This guy's got a ponytail. You're like, I'm pretty sure.
Ponytail is bona fide, 10 years in the game. He's got a commemorative pin. But it was awesome. It was so much fun. But I couldn't help but think if all the magicians knew each other, it's a community, right? It is But is that kind of like what it's like when comics all go watch each other's festival shows, where they're like, oh yeah, there's Drew, there's John.
I don't know how the wizarding world works this close on magic.
Magician.
Yeah. Sorry, is that offensive?
Get out.
Get out.
I don't want to do this podcast anymore.
How into magic are you? You're like pretty into it, right? You watch a lot of magic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm into it. It's good. Like, it's just not something that you bring up with people because then they get jealous.
I like that you're like this and you don't even do magic. You just admire the craft.
I have a very poor sleight of hand. I'm just an admirer because it's something that I know that. Well, it's like you don't watch the Olympics, going, oh, I could do that. Like you're like, I want to be amazed.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Yeah,
they are like Olympians. All these
of deceit and mystique. Do you know how hard it is to be a magician nowadays too? Like before, it would have been so much easier, but now everyone's all like, "Oh, it's the technology, or it's like a film camera trick." It's like, no, you've got to go through 2 levels of disbelief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it would have been easy when people were like actually thought you were magic.
Yeah.
When you did stuff.
Yeah. Do you reckon if you were a magician back then, like it would have been hard to win the dad over, like for a new girlfriend?
No, I think you would. Back then, you would kill her. They would be like terrified of you.
So when she's coming down the stairs for formal, they're just like, anything you say, you know what I mean? Like, are they approving? Where they're like, yeah, we're gonna go to a big castle after the formal. And then he's like, but enough of the shit. We're talking freaks today. Because we're reviewing Flannery O'Connor's Wise Blood, which is the freak memoir. No.
She's my favorite author, maybe. And she's just like, she writes... Do you reckon she was early on I guess there's always been freaks, people writing about freaks.
Yeah, but in the way that she writes about freaks, I think is quite different.
Like that Southern Gothic.
Yeah.
Kinda, yeah.
She's like a weird mix of like Southern styles mixed with Gothic, but then there's like all these religious overtones which make it, I think, all the more intense and like strangely moralistic, I think, but not in an overbearing way. She's not afraid to dip into the weird or the surreal. It's so cool.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. She's so funny as well. Wise Blood's like it's her first novel. And she's mainly known for her short stories. And I think she gets better as she goes as well. But this is still like a great book. Yeah.
Well, I think this book is meant to be, I think it started off as a compilation of short stories, which then she blended into creating it as a novel. But yeah, this book was written in 1952, and it's about a guy coming to terms with his religion who's like haunted by his Christianity. Yeah. I guess that's how you'd put it.
He's like haunted by his like loss of faith kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, so the main character is this guy called Hazel Motes, who's like a returned war veteran, and he's been discharged, and his whole family were all, you know, very religious. His grandfather was a preacher and he's renounced his faith, and he's on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's like those modern day atheists who are like, God isn't real. Heaps in your face.
Yeah. I think if this book was written today, they would have renamed it Richard Dawkins on Tour. Would have sold a lot of books.
Yeah, he is like Richard Dawkins. Which is funny because it's like one of her things is she always writes like most of her characters are always like really unlikable. And so she's wrote this like extremely unlikable person, and you're like, oh, this is like Richard Dawkins. Like,
Yeah. He's reading it and he's like, I've never felt more seen in my life. Finally, this devout Catholic understands. But the character, I love this story because the character, he's constant, like, despite the fact that he creates this whole, church without Christ or, church without religion, he's constantly being mistaken for a preacher because he wears like a top hat and he's going around screaming at the top of his lungs, and they're like, you must be a preacher or a missionary, and he's like, I ain't no preacher.
So as the plot goes, Hayes decides as the ultimate atheist warrior that he's going to start his own religion. That's like, it's like how the people are like, oh, it's a flying spaghetti monster now, like those atheist people now. So he starts one that's like, there is no God is our religion. Like, there was no Jesus and stuff.
Yeah, he gets so annoying about it. It reminds me so much of those guys, like that horrible transphobic joke that you hear all the time where they're just like, yeah, well, they, them, well, like, I identify as, like, a lamppost.
Yeah. It's like, cool, man. All right.
It's like, okay, no one gives a fuck. So he's screaming at the top of his lungs, like, beating his chest on top of a car. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
No one wants to join his religion, but it seems like there's a bit of turf rivalry.
Yeah, how funny is it? Like, just some con artist has been watching him and it's like, damn, that's a good idea. So he just starts and is immediately, like, way more popular, like, with his one.
Yeah. He's got a second person as, like, a step in as well.
Who looks exactly
like
him.
Whoa! Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. It's awesome. And he just gets so pissed off because I imagine if you were in that mentality where, you're going against the grain culturally, you might think, oh, it's maybe my ideas are too radical, or maybe people just don't understand, or they're afraid. And this guy basically rips him off, and they're like, no, we love this guy. And he's like, it must be personal then. It must be deeply, deeply personal. Like, it must be me.
So the only real friend or person who wants to be his friend he makes is this character called Enoch.
Who's like this 18-year-old guy who's just a bit of a loner and works at a zoo.
Yeah, he's got a really sad life. He's a zoo guard.
Yeah.
And he's jealous of all the animals at the zoo because he's like, they got it too good. I think he's just like the epitome of like, she's like, you're kind of like, without religion, humans are just animals. Even so much so that like, by the end of the novel, he beats up a guy in a gorilla suit and, like, puts it on and is, like, just going to live his life now as this gorilla. He has a really funny part where he decides he's controlled by his blood, which is his wise blood, where he comes from. Because he just, like, runs on instinct kind of thing. And he decides he's going to steal this mummified corpse for Hayes to use as his new Jesus, because he needs a Jesus figure.
Which is so disgusting.
Yeah. But how funny is it how he steals it? He puts on blackface so he won't be recognised when he goes in and steals it. But then he's like...
Yeah.
But then he's like, hang on, it will be suspicious a black person walking down the street. Black people will just be pulled over anyway. So he wears a disguise on top of the blackface where he puts a beard and, like, massive glasses so he doesn't look like a black... He's, like, wearing two disguises.
It's so absurd. It's so odd because I think there's this big tension and debate where a lot of people are like, she's so heinously racist because she uses the N-word a lot and, she has scenes like that.
Because I saw that, like, people were saying she's racist, but I've read a bit of a thing. I think she's, like, very, very not racist. I think... Because she almost, like, in her other novels, in her other stories and that, has this, like, really, like, modern take. because she kind of mocks like this false sense of liberalness of the time too, where it's like in one of her novels, everything that rises must converge. Sorry, it's one of her short stories. It's like it just deals with racism the whole book, but it's the whole story. But it's this like liberal guy. It's from his perspective, and he's sitting on a bus and he's trying to like make it clear to some black person that he's an ally. Like it's such a modern, like it feels like this signaling stuff, and it's like really funny. There's like a part in it where he's like just wants his attention. The guy's just ignoring him, this black person. So he's like, "Hey, do you have a light?" And the guy like gives him a light, and he doesn't have a smoke or anything. So he just like stands there looking at it, and it goes out, and the guy's like, "Oh, this person's so annoying," and stuff. And it's like deals with this like where it's like this false like this like new liberal class that want to be seen as like so progressive and stuff, but they are racist and stuff.
It's that whole fake altruism conversation, I feel like, that just keeps coming back. And the way that I ended up thinking about it was it reminded me a lot of like that Three Billboards movie. Do you remember when that came out and everyone was like, oh, it's so racist for its depictions of this, that and the other? And it's like, well, if you're doing a realistic representation of, it's like my take is if you're representing things that are unfair and unequal, why would you whitewash your literature in that way? Or if it's, you know, meant to point out those differences.
Yeah.
I don't think she's necessarily bolstering those opinions or values as if she's making a point about how messed up that they are.
No, I agree. I hate like I think like heaps of kind of woke stuff, it's like very dehumanizing, where it's like you can't even depict people's opinions. Like people talk in like shows and stuff like where they would never talk in real life, because it's like just hitting all these where it's like this representation of like it doesn't exist. Like people don't talk like that, and this is like a more realistic. Like it should be. You should be able to have a character that you disagree with in things. It's like there's a movie Happiness, and it's like half the characters are like awful and stuff, but it's like that's still maybe like it. It's just I just hate how you can't have like a negative character now. Yeah. And it's funny because it's like she portrays these characters so negatively, and then it's like, but then if they're racist or something, she's like, well, that part's real. Like, it's like, well, people like that part. It's like, well, why she's depicting them as a negative character? Like, why are you saying that's her views?
This guy just like ran someone over with a car, and he's like wrapping his body in barbed wire. Like, you know how fiction works. Right?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
That being said, though, I will say something that stood out to me, which might be the only criticism I have, but it's not even a criticism of her, is that she apparently when she was in uni and college and she was, you know, mixing with all these writers and everything like that, she fell deeply in love with this writer called Robert Lowell. Have you heard of him?
No.
So he was just like this heartthrob, hot writer, and she was like swooning for him something fierce. But then he convinced her to be involved in the anti-communist witch hunts. And she was like very active in it.
Oh, really? I didn't know. That's pretty funny.
Which is nuts. And because she was like, like communists are atheists. So I hate communists. So she was this like super progressive writer in all of these ways, writing about people on the fringe of society. But she's like, I don't like when my freaks are all equal.
That's hilarious, man. That's so funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, her uni years are like so funny because she was living in Georgia and then moved up to New York, and then it went fully like Girls Gone Wild for a period. And it was just crazy how she justified it for ages because there were all these things in her journals where she was like smooching this guy and everything, and she's like, well, I'll have you know, if people don't see you mixing and mingling and having relations with a member of the opposite sex, they're going to assume that you're doing something with the same. So she's like, I don't want people to think I'm gay.
It's the best justification. Yeah, she's pretty funny, man. How funny is, like, all her letters and stuff are just so funny to people. She's always so sarcastic and stuff.
You know what I was thinking? Because I think she's so cool. Like, she would do all these cartoons and caricatures, and she seems quite edgy, even though she's got,
Catholic
views. Everyone Catholic views and everything. She is a bit of a femcel.
In what way?
Like, she's a bit of an edgelord with, like, they're like, you can't handle the truth. I'm just saying it how it is. This is how, black people exist.
She even, like,
doing, like, cartoons and memes and sending them to the New Yorker, and she's like, deal with it.
I remember there's a picture I saw, and it's, like, her as a little kid, and she looks so sassy. And it's like, and it was like when she was like 12 or something, maybe, Gone with the Wind came out. And that was just like huge across the country. It's like the biggest film. Like, it's still like, I think when you like do it for inflation or whatever, it's like it's still like one of the highest grossing. And everyone loved it. And she was like, yeah, it sucks, like, as a kid. It was, like, so publicly, like, ugh, it doesn't know anything, it can't depict itself. And she wrote, like, stories, because they were, like, celebrating, at all the premieres, they would celebrate all these, like, really old Confederate soldiers. And she just wrote these stories that were just, like, mocking these old men who were, like, old Confederate soldiers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's so cool about her is, even though she's religious, she's just so edgy.
Yeah,
like, she doesn't care.
The last, like, third, I guess, or maybe quarter of the book introduces the new character of his landlady.
Mrs. Flood.
Yeah, and it's almost from her perspective as she's looking after Enoch, who's blinded himself now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is meant to be like an act of atonement, I guess.
Yeah, because he meets a blind preacher who turns out to be a con artist who claims that he's done that already.
But he's just chilling and reading the newspaper in his apartment all the time.
The last part of the book, Hayes blinds himself and is being looked after by this landlord who initially, like, kind of doesn't like him, I guess. And then kind of, by the end, wants to, like, marry him and, like, propositions him.
Well, because she wants his money, I think, like his war check, but then I think she actually falls in love with him afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she sees it as, like, a very opportunistic idea, but the way she proposes is pretty gross.
Yeah, she's like, so you can either, like, marry me or be on the streets as a blind guy. And he's like, he chooses the streets.
Okay, to set the scene, it's pouring rain, like torrential, and then she's like, it's either that or you have to leave. And he just stands. And then he just slowly starts walking down the stairs basically without a stick. And she's like, where are you going? And he just walks off into the night, which is the most bold, badass move ever.
Yeah, you'd feel pretty card being her. You'd be like, damn, I guess I don't have much to offer. So much.
This, like, self-harming, blind, crazy man doesn't want me. I think what gets me with this book is just that dark moralistic and religious overtone that kind of shapes the whole vibe of the book. But it then it started getting me interested in exorcisms and like extreme religion today, because like exorcisms are still a thing apparently.
Yeah.
It's like really fucking intense. Like I believe it back then, you know, in 1900s or whatever, where it's like, oh, you know, there's not much to do, like daytime TV isn't a thing, I guess we'll just like do an exorcism on a 3-year-old, and it's still happening today. There's like a whole skeptic society apparently who are like fighting against them. They're like, it's not real. It's not real. Yeah. And then this skeptic guy went to one of the exorcisms and everyone's like, ooh, like shaking and, you know, like praise be. And they're like twitching on the floor and everything. And then he's like, I went to one of these things and I'll tell you, it's all about the music. Like, you get into the music and the flow. Like, I wanted to twitch too. And it's just
the whole idea of it's cool too.
Well, it's just a rave.
Like an exorcist. Yeah. You know the movie The Exorcist? Like, after that came out, heaps more people became priests.
Really?
And became Catholic and stuff. Yeah, apparently it's like really good for the Catholic Church.
Right. But then they had to pretend to be like, ooh, we're really mad about it. And they're like, yes. Ooh. Don't do that. Please make a sequel. In The Exorcist 2, The Exorcist goes on a beautiful trip to Italy and visits their good friend, the Pope.
Yeah, the Pope's got a cameo in it.
Yeah, it's like Sex and the City style, where like the Exorcist is aged 20 years. And they're like...
There is multiple exorcists.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoops.
You fucking idiot. Dude, imagine if they had Exorcist 2.
I'm an alien, whatever. It doesn't matter. We got to wrap this show up soon. I got a magic show to get to.
Yeah. You've got to watch videos on how to do magic tricks that you're not going to even learn, because you're like, I could never do that. Who am I trying to kid?
I respect the craft too much, let's be completely honest. No, I had a magic kit as a kid.
Same.
Yeah, but I didn't have siblings or whatever, so I didn't have anyone to practice it on. So I'd just do it to the wall. Like, I'd play Operation alone. Like, I've told you about that, but you just get sad when I tell you about my childhood.
Yeah, your childhood bums me out so much. And all your photos, you're like, look at this cute photo. And it's just like you in like the dark. It's like so poorly lit. And you're just holding like some like really old looking doll that you're like, oh man.
You can't actually photograph asbestos, but I've got x-rays of my lungs. This is a sad way to end the show. I don't want to end it like this. I had a good childhood. I did. Yeah. My only regret
in comparison.
My only regret was not having a bird. Yeah.
Dude, she loves birds. Did you relate to her with that?
I did.
She loves birds. Flannery O'Connor loves birds.
Yeah. She had chickens, I think, was like, because she lived on a farm. She raised the chickens, and apparently there was this New York journalist or whatever who brought a camera, and they were like, presenting the first chicken that can walk backwards, and they filmed it and made a report, and she was like so thrilled with it. And then apparently she kept following up to the journalist. She's like, please come back. I've taught them how to walk back even faster. And they're like, we're not running this story again.
There was, as like a subject at school, they had to sew. It was like a woman's subject. They had to sew a dress.
Yeah.
They had to make clothes, and everyone made themselves like a dress. And she made like a full outfit for a chicken that she brought to school. She brought a chicken to school in an outfit.
That's so good. I love
she's so cute.
She's so
She had
sweet.
heaps of peacocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, she rules.
Yeah.
Makes you love her so much.
I honestly love it. There's a book apparently called Flannery and Her Birds, and it's I think it's a cartoon book, and I really want to get it, but you can't get it on Kindle because it would look like shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. Did you have anything else to add? Any thoughts about
Nah.
Miss FOC?
FOC. It's like AOC. But
Yeah.
no, I think we got it, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, dude.
Thank you. We will be back next week on Jet Ski Paradise. Thank you for listening.